Ah, Earth. Such a large planet full of sunlight, animals, and people. Lots of people. Sadly, everything's kind of been pushed behind a glass window thanks to a certain virus. Most of us have been unable to really spend time with friends, family, perhaps especially on the other side of the world. And this has been felt especially heavy in the furry fandom. With cons cancelled and most physical interactions halted, we've been relying on the internet more than ever for human interaction. Well, boy, do I got a story to tell you. I wasn't always this sociable and chatty, even when I joined the furry fandom. That all changed when I met my first furry in real life friend in a very, very unexpected way. I've been officially in the furry fandom for about 2 years now, and I've had a lot of experience from some great ones to some, well, not so great ones. I found new role models that I look up to, and others I just don't want anything to do with. How did all this start? Well, that's a long, long story that begins on a stormy night. About 2 years ago, I was a young girl in her prime, seeking out one to continue the fallen lineage I mean to be with. Sorry, this is the wrong video. Ignore what I just said. Anyway, this was around the time I was coming back to the furry fandom. I'd known about the furry fandom since I was around 18, which was 8 years ago. Oh, do I feel old. Anyway, I knew about the furry fandom from an ironic place. I may have used to enjoy a world of, friendship and magic. So the story begins on the bright, beautiful year of 2019. Before I start this video, I want to apologize in advance for the lack of visual medium. For one, I didn't want to show everything that me and my friend chatted about for, reasons. There was also the fact that trying to take screenshots of the conversation was prevented for security reasons from the app, so you'll just have to close your eyes and listen to my soothing voice as I take you back in time. After all, that's what we have imagination for. So back in 2019, I was working at a place that I legally can't say the name of. Besides, it is a supermarket chain that is very popular and very, very, very big. So I ended up looking on Howler for people close by while working at a store. I was a cashier, worked mornings, which was 7 in the morning. Fair warning, I am not a morning wolf, otherwise I'd be a chicken and not a majestic wolf. Oh wait, not chicken, rooster. Come on, Folly, get your animals together. I should know this. I should, but I don't, sadly. So I ended up finding a few people close by. Most ended up being, well, not exactly the most couth people to chat with. A few weeks later, after using Howler, I had mostly forgotten about the app. And then somebody sent me a message. It was the usual message of, hello, how are you doing, blah, blah, blah. Then eventually, after having a few conversations with this person, they moved on to asking me if I played a game called Heroes of the Storm. Now, for people that don't know, Heroes of the Storm is a mobile arena game by Blizzard, which actually isn't that bad, and it's free to play. I don't play it now, but I used to play it back then. But anyway, back to the story. So I said yes. I told them, yes, I play Heroes of the Storm. And then I found out not only did they live in my state, but they also lived in my old hometown that I used to live in during my school years. Again, not going to give out the actual town name for safety purposes. For now, though, we'll call the town Wolf Creek. Yeah, that sounds good. Brilliant. Brilliant, Fallen. Brilliant. So this Dragon Boy lived in my old hometown, which is the next town over where I lived then, and currently still reside in the town over. They seemed nice, and we chatted for a few days. I ended up playing a few games with them. It was fun times. We were busy going out in the town, gambling, talking like pirates, and lots of arg, and liquor. Lots of liquor. No, I'm just kidding. Just pretty much lots of fantasy MOBA mostly, and conversations about the furry fandom every once in a while. It helped a lot, though, having somebody to chat with, especially knowing somebody that was so close to my area. You see, when I was growing up, I didn't really have people to talk to about things I enjoyed. I kind of was always one of those loners that sat in the background and didn't really talk to people. So this was the perfect time, especially with me just getting back in the furry fandom after a few years, kind of not really caring about the fandom, actually. It was really a good feeling. At the same time, I had finally managed to get a job that gave me a stable schedule. No more 2 to 11s and then coming back in the next morning and then having off for a day only to come back for the next 7 days. So things were looking pretty good. I had been working this job for a year. I was working mornings. So anyway, as an overnight cashier who ran the self-checkouts, when the virus wasn't a thing and places actually stayed open late night, back when things were semi-normal and there was a sense of normalcy. But yeah, I slowly ended up making friends with an overnight self-checkout cashier who was, interesting to say the least. He tends to be, very eccentric, but he's well-meaning. So eventually, after weeks of small talk with the cashier and about a month or so with my online friend, I asked my online friend, was there anybody he was interested in? He was nice enough to say not really. And honestly, at this point, I wasn't really upset. I had gained such a bond and friendship with this person that I really just enjoyed their friendship and conversations with them. It was no longer about using this app just to find somebody to date. It was more, I found a good friend that was very kind and liked talking with me, and that was honestly better than a relationship. I'm sure people here have had them before. You ever have that really good friend, you end up feeling like you just couldn't possibly be anything but that with them. It's such a good friendship, you're afraid to lose it. Well, anyway, this became something interesting. So for the people listening, remember I just mentioned about the cashier that was usually at my spot in the mornings, waiting for me to take over for them at 7 in the morning? Well, came up that he was a furry. I think he mentioned something. Like I said, I forgot the details, but it was really shocking to me. You see, before that, sometimes I felt odd about being a furry. Not because I thought it was a bad thing, but it just felt so rare to find real-life furries, at least that were around my area. A lot of them felt like they were more in the bigger cities, not little small eastern coast towns. Finding out this cashier was a furry, we chatted about favorite furry artists and art, and they, sharing commissions that we had gotten, and all that fun little stuff. So anyway, I ended up telling them about a furry friend that I had met online that lived close to my area. This is when things got weird. So, I get the feeling some of you can guess what happened. But for the people that haven't figured it out, turns out he was the one I had been playfully flirting with online on Howler. And oh boy, it was a very interesting experience for me. Thankfully, they weren't too upset about it. We had a good laugh about it, and it actually turned out to be a good thing. After that, we chatted a lot more and even hung out a few times. Another few weeks after that, and I ended up getting offered to work overnights by my job, which I accepted because biggest reason, it was a pay raise and it was a full-time position. And funnily enough, like I said, he worked overnights. It was great. We ended up goofing off a lot at work. But I did get stuff done, so that's a bonus. And honestly, the best thing about this was, during this time, I had been having a lot of thoughts about myself, mainly my thoughts about being trans. And they were the first person in my life that really made me open up and discuss my feelings and helped me learn a lot about myself. And the thing is, I may have not gotten a partner, but I got a very supportive friend and somebody I don't want to ever lose. I no longer work at a store, I'm sorry to say, so I don't get to see them as often as I'd like. But I still talk with the cheese wheel. Yes, he's a cheese wheel, he's a circle, and he loves being called the big cheese. But, we haven't done as much as we used to, but we still keep in contact. They're kind of shy in real life, which is really funny because he looks like such a tough guy in real life. To me, he almost looks like a very strong, manly cowboy, but he's a real big softy. But another reason I guess you can't judge a book by its cover. I mean, not a bad message to take home. Well, that's my story. It's a good one that I find endearing, and hopefully you guys all enjoyed. This was something, like I said, a bit different, but I really like doing this project, and I'm thinking of doing more of these personal stories of mine. I'd like to thank you all for listening to this story, and you can expect a lot more content now that I've come back from hiatus. I did want to say that if you really enjoy my content and you really want to help support the channel, please feel free to donate over my PayPal. Every dollar helps and helps me to keep sharing my embarrassing and hopefully entertaining stories with you. Plus, it helps me keep up to date with new equipment. Certainly, I'm working to get a VR headset to explore the virtual world and share my experiences in the final frontier. Well, with that being said, this has been Fallen Wolf. Ow! And thank you for being part of the Fallenpack. Bye.